The letter trembles in Emma's hands. The ink is smudged in places, not from her tears, though she feels them pressing against her eyes, but from the years it has rested, untouched, in her grandfather's lawyer's file. She reads the line again, certain she's misread it. In the event of attempted sale, the deed reverts to my granddaughter, Emma Claire Hart, provided she is of age and willing to reside within these walls. Her throat tightens. She hadn't stepped foot in that house for 5 years, not since the funeral, not since her family decided that grief could be buried under real estate negotiations. The house was gone, sold off, erased from her future. Or so she thought. Now, the old Victorian stands hers again. Emma folds the letter carefully, as if it might disintegrate, and presses it to her chest. She hears her grandfather's voice in her memory, warm, teasing, endlessly gentle. This house is a stubborn old thing, Emma, just like you. It doesn't like letting go. Her car winds down the familiar road, the golden late afternoon light filtering through tall oaks that line the gravel path. The closer she gets, the more the weight of her childhood presses into her chest. Summer afternoons chasing fireflies, winters curled up by the crackling fireplace, nights listening to Grandpa hum lullabies through the walls. And then it's there. The Hart House. Its gables rise against the sky, weathered but proud, paint peeling slightly around the shutters, ivy crawling along the stone chimney. The windows stare back at her like watchful eyes, curious, maybe even relieved. Emma steps out of the car, her boots crunching against the gravel, and takes a deep breath. The air smells the same. Wood smoke, pine, and faint traces of roses from the overgrown garden. Her hands brush against the iron gate as she pushes it open. It creaks, a sound that tugs at something buried in her chest. Inside, the house feels alive. Dust motes dance in the slant of sunlight spilling across the wooden floorboards. Her fingertips trail along the banister, polished smooth by decades of touch. The grandfather clock in the hall still ticks steadily, defying time itself. She whispers softly, almost afraid to disturb the silence. "Hi, Grandpa." Her voice wavers. She swallows hard, blinking fast. Everywhere she looks, memories rise like ghosts. The armchair by the window where he'd read his books. The kitchen that always smelled of cinnamon. The tiny wooden boat he carved and placed on the mantel for her. And yet, something feels unsettled. Boxes sit stacked near the back door, left behind by the would-be buyers who never finished moving in. A toolbox rests against the wall, half open, as if someone had been here recently. The house isn't abandoned, it's in transition, caught between belonging and lost. Emma kneels by the fireplace, her fingers brushing against the cool stone. "Why me?" she murmurs. "Why give it back to me?" Her phone buzzes in her pocket. It's her mother. She hesitates, then answers. "Emma." Her mother's voice is sharp, already brimming with disapproval. "I heard you went to the house." Emma takes a breath. "It's mine now." Grandpa's will, there was a clause. "The deed's been returned to me. That place is a burden. We agreed to let it go." We, Emma thinks bitterly, never included her. "I can't just walk away," she says quietly. Her mother sighs heavily, the kind of sigh that carries years of unspoken arguments. "Do what you want, Emma, but don't say I didn't warn you." The call ends, leaving Emma alone with the echo of her decision. She wanders upstairs, the stairs creaking under her weight. Her old bedroom door still bears the sticker she plastered there as a child. Inside, the faded wallpaper greets her like an old friend. She runs her hand over the desk where she wrote her first stories, feeling a mix of warmth and ache. By evening, the house feels both overwhelming and protective, as if it's waiting for her to claim it fully. She lights a few candles when the power flickers, their glow painting golden halos on the walls. She sits by the window, journal in her lap, trying to put words to the storm inside her. Her pen scratches slowly, The house remembers me. And maybe I need to remember it. A sudden sound breaks the stillness. A faint thud downstairs. Emma freezes. The hairs on her arms rise as she sets her journal aside. The rational part of her whispers that it's nothing, just the old house settling, maybe wind against the shutters. But the sound comes again, sharper this time. A footstep. Her pulse quickens. She grabs the nearest thing, an old brass candlestick, and creeps toward the stairs. The living room glows dimly with candlelight. Shadows stretch long across the floorboards. Then she sees him. A tall figure stands by the fireplace, his back to her, as if he belongs there. His jacket is worn, his stance tense but steady. He turns slowly, eyes catching hers. Emma gasps, heart pounding. He looks as startled as she feels, but he recovers first, his voice low, rough, like gravel softened by rain. You're not supposed to be here. Her grip on the candlestick tightens. Neither are you. The silence between them crackles, the house holding its breath. His gaze lingers on her, not hostile, but not exactly gentle either, curious, wary. Something unspoken simmering beneath the surface. I thought this place was empty, he says. Well, it isn't. Emma fires back, though her voice trembles. They stand in the flickering half-light, strangers bound by walls that seem to lean closer, listening. The house has always been full of stories. Perhaps, Emma thinks with a shiver, it has just begun another. The stranger's gaze holds Emma in place, the candlelight painting shadows across his sharp jawline. His stance is guarded, like a soldier caught trespassing, yet there's no malice in his eyes, just something unreadable, something that unsettles her more than anger would have. Emma lowers the candlestick a fraction, though her fingers still grip it like a lifeline. Who are you? She demands. He tilts his head slightly, his voice low but firm. Ryan Miller, architect. The word feels out of place here, in the dusty warmth of her grandfather's house. She blinks. Architect? What are you doing in my home? His mouth curves, not into a smile, but into something closer to disbelief. Your home? That's new. Last I was told, this place was under contract. Emma's chest tightens. Of course, he must have been tied to her family's attempt to sell the house. That deal's over, she says quickly, the edge in her voice sharper than she intended. There was a clause in the will. The deed's back in my name. Ryan studies her for a moment, his eyes flicking over her with a mixture of curiosity and frustration. Finally, he exhales, running a hand through his dark hair. So that's why I got the call canceled. The call? He gestures vaguely at the scattered boxes. I was hired to assess the house, see what could be salvaged, what needed tearing down. Your family wanted numbers. Emma's stomach twists. The thought of anyone talking about tearing down these walls feels like an insult to her grandfather's memory. And what did you decide? Ryan's gaze softens almost imperceptibly as it drifts to the fireplace, the crown molding, the old beams that still hold strong. That it's worth saving, he admits. But not everyone agrees. For a moment, silence stretches between them, heavy but not hostile. The house seems to lean into the pause, as though listening. Emma sets the candlestick down on the mantel, her pulse beginning to slow. Well, she says, folding her arms, I'm not selling. So you can tell whoever hired you that their plans are done. Ryan's lips press into a line. You think it's that simple? This place isn't just a house, Emma. It's a project. And if you're planning to live here, you'll need help. She bristles. I didn't ask for yours. His eyes flash briefly with something irritation, maybe, or challenge. But instead of arguing, he steps back, giving her space. Fair enough, he murmurs. Emma feels an unexpected pang, as if part of her wanted him to argue, to care. She shakes it off and moves toward the stairs, but the weight of his presence follows her like a shadow. Later, In the kitchen, Emma busies herself with unpacking the essentials she brought in a cardboard box. She doesn't expect him to linger, but when she turns, Ryan is leaning casually against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching. She raises an eyebrow. "You're still here. I don't leave jobs half done," he says simply. "Besides, this house is different. It doesn't let go easily." The words strike her, echoing her grandfather's voice from years ago. She swallows hard. "You sound like him," Ryan frowns. "Like who?" "My grandfather. He always said the house was stubborn." She forces a small laugh, though her throat feels tight. Guess he was right. Ryan doesn't smile, but his gaze softens again, like he's seeing something in her he doesn't want to admit. He must have loved it here. He did. Her voice breaks on the words, and she quickly busies herself with stacking cups. This place was everything to him. For the first time, Ryan looks away, his eyes landing on a chipped teacup in her hand. His voice drops low, almost thoughtful. "Funny how some places hold on to people, even after they're gone." Emma sets the cup down carefully, her chest tightening at the truth in his words. As the evening deepens, Ryan offers reluctantly, almost against his own nature, to check the fuse box when the lights flicker again. Emma trails behind him with a flashlight, watching the way he moves, steady and assured, as though he belongs in the labyrinth of hallways and creaking doors. "You know your way around houses like this?" she asks. "I grew up in one," he replies, crouching by the panel. Old, stubborn, always on the verge of collapsing, but still standing somehow. There's something in his tone, bitterness edged with nostalgia, that makes Emma tilt her head. "Do you miss it?" He doesn't look up. Some things aren't meant to be missed. The finality in his voice silences her. But the words linger, gnawing at her, as if there's a story there he refuses to tell. The fuse box hums back to life under his hands, and the lights flicker on. He straightens, brushing dust from his jacket, and their eyes meet in the sudden brightness. For a moment, the air between them shifts. Emma notices the small scar near his temple, the faint tiredness in his eyes, the way his jaw tightens when he looks at her. He isn't just a stranger. He's a man carrying something heavy, something unspoken. She feels it like a current between them, magnetic, undeniable, and confusing. Ryan clears his throat, stepping back. "There. Should hold for now." Emma nods, though her heartbeat is still uneven. "Thank you." He moves toward the door, pausing in the threshold. For a second, she thinks he'll leave, vanish like a shadow into the night. But instead, he glances back, his voice quieter than before. "You should know," he says. "This house isn't the only one with walls. People have them too. And sometimes they're harder to fix." Before she can respond, he's gone, the front door closing softly behind him. The morning light spills through the lace curtains, painting delicate patterns across the floorboards of Emma's childhood bedroom. She hasn't slept well. Too many dreams of her grandfather's laughter echoing down the halls, mingling with the sharp image of Ryan's shadowed face. She pulls herself up, wraps a sweater around her shoulders, and heads downstairs. The house creaks as if stretching after years of silence. Every sound reminds her she is no longer just a visitor. This is hers now, her responsibility, her burden, her fragile inheritance. Boxes wait in the living room, stacked like silent sentinels. Emma kneels by the largest one, labeled Study. The lid resists her pull before giving way with a puff of dust. Inside, she finds notebooks filled with her grandfather's precise handwriting, photographs of family gatherings, and a brass pocket watch that still ticks faintly when wound. Her throat tightens. She cradles the watch in her palm, whispering, "Why does it feel like you're still here?" The sound of a knock startles her. She jumps, nearly dropping the watch. Through the glass panel of the front door, Ryan's figure appears, Backlit by the morning sun, Emma hesitates, torn between shutting the door in his face and letting him in. But the house seems to hum around her, as if urging her to open it. With a resigned breath, she twists the handle. "Morning," Ryan says simply. His jacket is dusted with the chill of early air, his expression unreadable but not unfriendly. Emma crosses her arms. "You didn't strike me as the kind of man who does surprise visits." "I don't," he replies, leaning slightly against the doorframe. "But I figured you'd need help. That house isn't going to fix itself." "I didn't ask." "I know." His interruption is calm, almost quiet. "But I meant what I said last night. If you're staying here, you can't do it alone." Emma's jaw tightens, but her shoulders sag. She glances back at the mountains of boxes, the endless list of repairs. The truth is written all around her. "Fine," she mutters. "You can help, but only because the house could use the extra hands." Ryan nods once. Stepping inside, as though he belongs, they begin in the study. Dust hangs in golden beams of sunlight, coating the mahogany shelves and leather chairs. Emma carefully lifts old books, setting them in piles, while Ryan tests the creaking windows. "This place is solid," he says, pressing a hand against the frame. "Stubborn bones, like it refuses to collapse." Emma glances up, caught by the way his fingers trace the wood with something like reverence. "You almost sound like you admire it." "I do." His eyes flick to hers. Houses carry stories in their walls. They don't forget. Her chest tightens. "That's what I'm afraid of. That it remembers everything, even the things I wish it wouldn't." Ryan doesn't answer right away. He studies her, brow furrowed, then kneels beside a box of books. His voice lowers. Sometimes remembering is the only way forward. Emma swallows hard and turns away, blinking back tears before they betray her. By afternoon, the study floor is littered with open boxes. Emma finds herself holding up an old photograph. Her grandfather seated on the porch steps, her 10-year-old self perched on his lap. His arm is around her, his smile wide and unguarded. She stares at the image until her vision blurs. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispers. Ryan, crouched nearby with a toolbox, looks up. "Do what?" "Live here. Every corner feels like him. Every smell, every sound. It's like he's watching me, expecting me to carry it all. But I'm not him." Her voice cracks on the last word, and she presses the photo to her chest. Ryan straightens, his footsteps slow as he crosses the room. For a moment, Emma thinks he'll reach out, but he stops just short. His voice is gentle, though still edged with that quiet intensity. "You're not supposed to be him. You're supposed to be you." That's enough. The air between them feels charged, the silence louder than words. Emma's pulse thrums in her ears, and she forces herself to break eye contact, setting the photo down carefully. They move to the attic, where dust swirls in thick clouds. Old trunks line the walls, filled with forgotten relics, letters, coats. A cracked violin. Emma opens one trunk, pulling out a stack of envelopes tied with string. She tugs at the knot, revealing letters written in her grandfather's hand, but addressed to a name she doesn't recognize. "Margaret," she reads aloud, puzzled. Ryan looks over her shoulder. "Old flame?" Emma frowns. "I don't know. He never talked about her." She skims the first page. The words are tender, full of longing and devotion. A life her grandfather had lived before she even existed. It feels like a betrayal, like discovering he was someone else, someone she never knew. Emma's hand trembles. "Maybe I didn't know him at all." Ryan's voice cuts softly through the haze. "Or maybe he was more than you realized. People carry layers we don't always see." Emma looks at him, unsettled by the way his eyes seem to hold both understanding and something he keeps hidden. As though he knows too well about hidden lives. About secrets buried beneath walls dark by dusk. They collapse onto the porch steps, both covered in dust and cobwebs. The garden sprawls before them, wild and unkempt, roses tangled in briars. Emma exhales heavily. I feel like I'm drowning in memories. Ryan leans back against the railing, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Maybe memories aren't the weight. Maybe it's the fear of letting go. His words sink into her chest like stones. She turns to study him, his profile sharp against the fading light, his eyes far away. There's something lonely about him, like a man carrying his own ghosts. You talk like you've been through this, she says quietly. Ryan doesn't look at her. Maybe I have. The answer is evasive, but his tone leaves no room for pressing. Emma bites back her questions. For now, instead, she lets the silence stretch, the hum of cicadas filling the space between them. She realizes, almost unwillingly, that his presence has steadied her in a way nothing else has since stepping into the house. It unsettles her. It comforts her. It terrifies her. As night falls, Ryan rises, brushing dust from his hands. I'll come back tomorrow. There's still a lot to do. Emma stiffens, caught between wanting to protest and wanting to agree. She settles for a guarded nod. Fine. He pauses at the gate, glancing back at her. His eyes catch the glow of the porch light, and for an instant, she feels exposed under his gaze, as if he can see the exact storm inside her. Then he's gone, the crunch of his footsteps fading down the gravel path. Emma sits alone, hugging her knees against the evening chill. The house looms behind her, heavy with history, but now another presence lingers in its halls. She whispers into the night, half to herself, half to the house. What are you doing to me? Dust filled the narrow shaft of light streaming through the cracked shutters. Emma's hand trembled as she pried away the warped wooden panel in the study. The house groaned as though it disapproved of her intrusion. Something slid free from the hollow space behind the wall and landed softly at her feet. It was a bundle, tied with yellowed ribbon, edges frayed with time. Careful, Ryan said from behind, his voice a low murmur that both startled and steadied her. He crouched, brushing the dust from the bundle. Looks like it's been waiting to be found. Emma crouched beside him, heart racing. She recognized her grandfather's neat, slanted handwriting on the outer page. Letters, dozens of them. Her throat tightened. These are theirs? His and Grandma's. The air seemed to shift. The house was no longer just brick and plaster. It was alive, humming with the heartbeat of the two people who had built their life here. Emma untied the ribbon slowly, reverently, as though the paper might crumble beneath her touch. Ryan sat across from her, knees drawn up, the usual stoicism in his face softening as he watched her unfold the first page. My dearest Margaret. The letter began, the nights are longer without your laughter filling these halls. I build and rebuild these walls, but they will never be strong enough to keep out the ache of missing you. Emma's vision blurred. She pressed the page to her chest. Ryan leaned closer. May I? She hesitated only a moment before handing it to him. His fingers brushed hers lightly, and though the contact lasted only seconds, it sent a sharp, inexplicable heat through her. Ryan read in silence, lips moving faintly with the words. The sound of his quiet breath mingling with the scratch of old paper felt strangely intimate, as though she were sharing something more than family history. They loved each other. Fiercely, Ryan said, his voice quieter than she'd ever heard it. Emma nodded, blinking away the sting in her eyes. They did. Even when they argued, it was never doubt. Just passion. Ryan looked at her then, really looked, and the weight of his gaze nearly undid her. He seemed about to say something, but instead he reached for another letter. The second was shorter, ink smudged in places. I don't care what they say. I don't care if this house falls apart or if money runs dry. What matters is you. Always you. Emma inhaled sharply, pressing her hand to her mouth. She remembered her grandmother's smile, the way she would touch her grandfather's arm at the breakfast table, as though the world could stop, and it would still be enough. Do you see it? Emma whispered. Ryan tilted his head. See what? The house isn't just walls. It's them. Their fights, their laughter, their stubbornness. Every brick has their fingerprints. His lips curved faintly. And now yours. The statement sat between them, heavier than the dust in the air. Emma felt her pulse quicken, uncertain whether to accept or deflect it. Instead, she turned back to the pile, desperate to hide the storm inside her. As they read through more letters. The room grew quiet, except for the occasional creak of old timber and the hushed cadence of Ryan's voice. Each letter was another window into a love story that refused to dim with age. One particular letter caught Ryan's attention. He ran his thumb along the fold, his brow furrowed. This one's different. Emma leaned in. What do you mean? The tone. He cleared his throat and began reading aloud. Margaret, if one day this house finds itself in the hands of someone who doesn't love it the way we have, may it find its way back to you. Or to someone who carries your heart in theirs. Emma froze. Her fingers clenched at the worn rug beneath them. That clause in the will, she whispered. It wasn't just legal strategy. It was. His heart speaking. Ryan folded the letter carefully, eyes unreadable. He wanted to make sure love stayed here, that it wouldn't be lost to people who only saw value in property, not in memory. Their eyes met again, and Emma felt the air thicken between them. The walls seemed to lean in, listening. Ryan's gaze flickered down to her lips before darting away. He stood abruptly, dusting off his jeans. We shoulda store these properly, before they deteriorate. Emma stared at him, frustration tugging at her chest. Why did he always pull away when something real trembled at the edge of their words? She gathered the letters, pressing them to her chest. Maybe they're not meant to be stored. Maybe they're meant to be read, felt. Ryan stopped by the window, his silhouette etched against the late afternoon sun. He turned slowly, something raw in his expression. And what about the things left unsaid? The ones that never made it onto paper? Emma's breath caught. For a fleeting second, she thought he meant his own feelings meant her. But his face shuddered again, leaving her grasping at uncertainty. She stood, brushing her skirt, grounding herself in the weight of the letters. Then maybe it's up to us to speak them. Before it's too late. Silence stretched, sharp and aching. Ryan's jaw tightened, his fists flexing at his sides. You don't know what you're asking. Emma's pulse thudded in her ears. Then tell me. Tell me what it is. I don't know. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The struggle in his eyes was almost painful to watch. Finally, he said only, Not tonight. The words sliced through the fragile thread between them. Emma blinked back tears of frustration, nodding stiffly. She turned to the table, gathering the bundle of letters, as though they could anchor her against the swell of confusion. Ryan moved toward the door, hand brushing the worn frame. You should get some rest. Tomorrow will bring more to uncover. And then he was gone, leaving her alone in the echoing quiet. Emma sank onto the chair, the letters clutched tight in her lap. Her grandfather's words burned through her. Always you. Her heart ached with the weight of secrets, both old and new, pressing against the fragile walls of the house. Outside. The wind rattled the shutters like a whisper she couldn't quite decipher. She lifted her gaze to the door Ryan had just walked through. What are you hiding from me? She whispered into the silence. The unanswered question hung heavy in the air, a thread pulling her toward tomorrow. Rain hammered against the old windows, streaking the glass with silver lines as the storm closed in. The house groaned under the force of the wind, its shutters clattering like restless spirits. Emma stood in the center of the living room, her arms folded tight across her chest, the letters she'd found earlier still echoing in her mind. Ryan was by the fireplace, struggling with damp wood that refused to catch. His movements were sharp, controlled too controlled. Finally, she broke the silence. "You can't just avoid this forever, Ryan." He froze mid-motion, turning his head slightly. "Avoid what?" "You know what?" Her voice was brittle, carried by the storm. "The house. What to do with it. What it means." He dropped the kindling onto the hearth with a thud. "And what do you think it means, Emma?" She swallowed hard, her throat burning. "It's not just property. It's not just bricks and beams. It's everything. My grandparents' love, their lives. It's part of who I am." Ryan stood, his shadow flickering against the walls as the fire finally caught a reluctant flame. "And what if holding on to it ruins you?" Her eyes widened. "Ruins me?" He faced her fully now, his jaw clenched, eyes storm dark. "You're clinging so hard to the past, you can't see the weight it's putting on your shoulders. You're drowning in memories, Emma. You can't live inside ghosts." The words stung like salt in an open wound. "And what would you know about ghosts?" She shot back. "You don't even let yourself feel anything long enough to have them." His eyes flickered, just for a moment, with something raw. Then his voice hardened. "You think you're the only one who's lost something? You have no idea." The lights flickered, cutting him off. A thunderclap rattled the house, plunging them briefly into darkness before the lamps buzzed back on, weak and trembling. Emma's chest heaved, her heart pounding louder than the storm. "Then tell me," she whispered fiercely. "Tell me what I don't know. Stop hiding behind silence." Ryan ran a hand through his damp hair, pacing like a caged animal. His breaths were sharp, ragged. "It's not that simple." "It is." Emma's voice cracked, tears threatening but not yet falling. "If you care about me, about this house, about anything, then stop shutting me out." The air between them pulsed, heavy with the storm outside and the storm inside. Ryan stopped pacing, his gaze locking onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "You think I don't care?" Her lips parted, but no words came. He crossed the room in 3 swift strides, standing so close she could feel the heat radiating from him, the smell of rain clinging to his shirt. "Every moment I'm here, I'm fighting not to care too much," he said, his voice low and rough. The confession left the air trembling. Emma's chest rose and fell, her pulse wild. "Then stop fighting," she whispered. A crack of lightning lit the room, followed by a growl of thunder. The lights flickered again, dimming to a faint glow. Shadows danced around them as though the house itself was holding its breath. Ryan's eyes dropped to her lips, then back up. He shook his head as though torn in two. "This is a mistake. Then let it be one we both make," Emma said, and just like that, the tension snapped. His hands cupped her face, warm and steady, and his mouth found hers in a rush that was both fury and surrender. The kiss was hungry, desperate, years of restraint breaking open in one stormy instant. Emma gasped against him, her hands clutching his shirt as though anchoring herself to the only thing that felt real. The world outside vanished. The rain, the thunder, the ghosts of the past all faded into the background as his lips moved against hers with an urgency that stole every coherent thought. Her back brushed the cool plaster wall as Ryan pressed closer. One arm braced beside her, the other cradling the back of her head. She felt the trembling in his body, the war between resistance and desire finally lost. When they broke apart, both were breathless, their foreheads resting together. Emma whispered, her voice shaking, "Tell me you don't feel it." Ryan's eyes closed, jaw tight. "That's the problem. I feel it too much." For a moment, silence wrapped around them, only the storm bearing witness. His thumb brushed her cheek, tender in contrast to the ferocity of his kiss. Emma's heart ached at the conflict etched across his face. Then why does it feel like you're still pulling away? He stepped back slightly, his absence like a wound. Because once we start this, Emma, there's no undoing it. And I don't know if either of us is ready for what that means. The fire snapped loudly in the hearth, as though mocking his hesitation. Emma hugged her arms around herself, the heat of his touch already fading. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not ready. But I'd rather risk breaking than live half alive. Ryan stared at her, torn, his chest rising and falling, as though every breath cost him got another flicker of the lights, left them in near darkness. For a second, only the fire illuminated his face, the raw longing in his eyes, the fear tangled with it. Finally, he whispered, almost too softly to hear, "You deserve more than what I can give." Emma's breath caught, her tears threatening again. "Then let me decide what I deserve." The silence after that was unbearable. Ryan turned sharply, running a hand over his face, pacing back toward the window where rain streaked down in relentless sheets. He pressed a palm against the cold glass, his back to her. Emma stood rooted, the imprint of his kiss burning her lips, her body alive with a fire she couldn't extinguish. "Ryan," she said softly, almost pleading. He didn't turn. "I need air." Before she could stop him, he opened the door and stepped into the storm, rain swallowing him whole. Emma stood in the middle of the flickering light, her chest aching, her heart on fire. The kiss had changed everything, and yet nothing had been resolved. She pressed her fingers to her lips, tears finally slipping free. The storm roared louder, rattling the walls, echoing the chaos in her chest. The evening air hung heavy, thick with the aftertaste of laughter and warmth. Emma had never felt this alive before, sharing fragments of herself with Ryan over the clinking of glasses and half-forgotten songs drifting through the cafe. Yet as they stepped out into the quiet street, something in his expression shifted. His smile faltered, his eyes clouded over, as though some invisible hand had drawn the curtains across his soul. Emma noticed. She always noticed. "Ryan?" Her voice was soft, careful, the way one speaks when reaching for something fragile. "Are you okay?" He forced a half-smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, just tired." She didn't believe him. The way his jaw tightened, the way his hands clenched into fists in his pockets, this wasn't fatigue. It was something deeper, something he was burying beneath practiced silence. They walked side by side in silence, the city lights flickering above like a constellation trying to guide them somewhere. Emma wanted to take his hand, but the weight of the unspoken kept her fingers frozen at her side. When they reached the corner, he suddenly stopped. His voice cracked when he spoke. "Do you ever feel like no matter how far you run, your past is still standing right behind you?" The words caught Emma off guard. She turned to face him, his features bathed in the amber glow of the street lamp. His eyes were distant, haunted, as if he were staring at something only he could see. "Ryan," she whispered. "What happened to you?" For a long moment, he said nothing. The silence between them was so loud it hurt. Then slowly, he exhaled, as though releasing something he'd held for far too long. "She left," he said flatly. "The one person I thought I'd spend forever with. She walked out without a word. Just gone." His throat tightened, the confession scraping raw against his pride. "I gave her everything, Emma. Every dream, every piece of myself. And in return, she gave me emptiness." Emma's chest ached at the vulnerability in his voice. She wanted to reach out, to erase the pain carved into his memory. But doubt pricked her heart. If she left him, what would stop him from leaving me? Ryan turned away, his voice lower now. "Since then, I don't trust myself." I don't trust what I feel. Because feelings, they fade. People fade. And I can't. He broke off, pressing his hands against his face as though trying to wipe the ghosts away. Emma swallowed hard, her own fears rising like shadows. And what about me, Ryan? Am I just another feeling that might fade for you? The question pierced the night. It wasn't meant to wound, but the tremor in her voice betrayed how much she feared the answer. Ryan flinched, looking at her with something between sorrow and desperation. No, you're different. You make me feel alive again. But that's what terrifies me. Why? She whispered. Because if I lose you. His voice cracked. I don't think I'd survive it. The vulnerability in his words made Emma's heart twist, but her own insecurities roared louder. She remembered the countless times she had been someone's temporary. A chapter, never the whole book. A passing star, never the sky itself. You say that now, Emma said, her eyes glistening. But what happens when I'm no longer enough? When the ghosts come back louder than my voice? Ryan stepped closer, desperation flickering in his eyes. Emma, look at me. His hands hovered inches from hers, trembling, as if asking permission to touch. I don't know how to promise you forever. I don't even know if forever exists. But I swear, right here, right now, there's no one else I want but you. Her breath hitched. The sincerity in his tone was undeniable, but so were her fears. The night became a battlefield of love and doubt, two hearts colliding under the weight of scars neither had chosen. She looked away, blinking back tears. I'm scared, Ryan. Scared of giving everything and being left with nothing. His silence stretched long. Then he whispered, So am I. That confession shattered something between them. Yet, paradoxically, it also stitched a new thread of connection. They weren't enemies fighting each other. They were two wounded souls, terrified of the same abyss. Ryan finally closed the distance. His hand brushed against hers, tentative, trembling. She didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers curled into his palm, fragile yet firm, as though testing the weight of trust. The world around them blurred into irrelevance. The city, the lights, the hum of life, they all faded, leaving only the gravity of two hearts on the edge of something dangerous and beautiful. Then maybe, Ryan murmured, his forehead leaning against hers. We stop running from our ghosts and face them together. Emma's tears slipped free, streaking her cheeks like fragile rivers of truth. For the first time, she didn't feel alone in her fear. She felt. Seen. Their lips met not in passion, but in desperate reassurance, a promise carved in the fragile language of touch. It was imperfect, trembling, but it was real. When they pulled apart, Emma whispered, Promise me something. Anything. If the ghosts come back, if you feel yourself pulling away, just tell me. Don't shut me out. Ryan nodded, his voice a whisper carried by the night. And you don't ever believe you're not enough. Because you are, Emma. More than enough. For the first time in years, Ryan felt the chains of his past loosen, if only slightly. And Emma, though still trembling with doubt, felt the first fragile bloom of trust taking root. But just as warmth began to settle between them, the night shattered. Ryan's phone buzzed sharply, slicing through the fragile peace. He glanced at the screen, and his face drained of color. Emma's heart sank. Who is it? His voice was barely a whisper. It's her. The silence that followed was colder than the night itself. The rain had stopped, leaving the old stone walls of the house glistening beneath the late afternoon light. Emma stood in the living room, tracing her fingers along the chipped mantel, as if it could anchor her in the middle of the storm brewing around her. This house had always been more than bricks and beams. It was her childhood laughter echoing in the hallways, her mother's lullabies bleeding through the thin walls, her father's firm but gentle voice guiding her through life. And yet now, It was becoming the battlefield where love and loyalty collided. "Emma," her sister's voice cut through the silence, sharp and unyielding. "You're letting him cloud your judgment. Can't you see that?" Emma turned slowly. Her sister, Claire, stood in the doorway with folded arms, her eyes blazing with the kind of certainty only family could wield. Behind her, their mother lingered, her expression a storm of disappointment. "This isn't about Ryan," Emma said carefully, though her voice trembled. "It's about preserving what matters," Claire scoffed. "Preserving? Or clinging? You can't even see straight anymore. You've let yourself get swept up in some whirlwind romance, and now you're ready to gamble everything on a man you barely know." The accusation struck harder than Emma expected. Heat surged through her chest. "That's not fair." Her mother finally spoke, her tone quieter but no less piercing. "Fair or not, darling, we only want what's best for you. This house has weight, responsibilities. Are you sure he understands that? Are you sure you do?" Emma's throat tightened. She had no answer. Before she could form one, footsteps echoed behind her. Ryan had arrived, the creak of the floorboards betraying his presence. He froze at the sight of Claire and her mother, tension already palpable in the air. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice steady but guarded. Claire's glare shifted to him like a spotlight. Perfect timing. "Maybe you can explain to Emma why this is a terrible idea." Ryan blinked. "I'm not sure what you mean." Claire stepped closer, her voice laced with venom. "You've filled her head with dreams, haven't you? Promises of fixing this place up, starting fresh. But do you even know what that takes? Do you know what she'd be sacrificing?" Emma's chest tightened. "Claire, stop." But Ryan didn't stop her. He didn't argue. He didn't fight. Instead, his silence stretched, heavy and damning. His eyes flickered toward the peeling wallpaper, the sagging beams, the cracked floorboards. And in that silence, Emma heard everything he wasn't saying. Doubt, hesitation, fear. Her heart sank. Claire smirked bitterly. "See? He can't even answer." Emma spun toward Ryan, her voice breaking. "Say something, please." He hesitated, and finally spoke, low and uncertain. "Emma, I love what this place means to you. I do." But the word shattered her. "But what?" She demanded. "But maybe your family is right. Maybe it's too much. Too heavy. Too costly. Maybe." His voice faltered. "Maybe we're not ready for this." The air thickened, suffocating. Emma felt her knees weaken, her pulse thundering in her ears. His words weren't just about the house. She heard the echo beneath them. "Maybe we're not ready for each other." Her mother placed a hand on Claire's arm, urging restraint, but the damage was already done. Emma's voice trembled. "Not ready? Ryan, this isn't just a house. This is me, my life, my memories. If you can't stand with me in this, what does that say about us?" Ryan reached for her, desperation flickering in his eyes. "Don't twist this. I care about you more than anything. But caring doesn't make the foundation less cracked. It doesn't make the risk disappear." Tears pricked at Emma's eyes, blurring her vision. "Love isn't safe, Ryan. It's never been safe. But if you can't take the risk with me, then what are we even doing?" The room fell silent, the only sound the distant drip of water from the eaves outside. Claire shifted uncomfortably, but didn't speak again. Their mother's gaze softened, but her silence spoke volumes. "Choose wisely." Ryan's hand hovered inches from Emma's, trembling as if caught between holding on and letting go. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered. "Then don't," she whispered back, her voice cracking. "Don't let fear make you walk away." For a moment, time suspended itself. Ryan's lips parted as though to speak, but the words never came. Instead, he stepped back, just a fraction of an inch, but enough for Emma to feel the distance, like a chasm opening beneath her feet. Her heart shattered quietly, piece by piece. She turned to her family, her voice trembling but firm. "I need air." Without another word, Emma brushed past them, the wooden door groaning as she pushed it open. The cool evening air struck her face like a slap, but at least it gave her space to breathe. Ryan followed her outside, his footsteps urgent. "Emma, wait." She spun around, tears streaking her cheeks. "What do you want me to say? That it's fine? That I understand? Because I don't. I don't understand how you can claim to care for me and still stand there afraid to take one step forward." His face twisted with conflict. "I'm afraid because I care. Because I know what it feels like to give everything and lose it all." "I can't," Emma cut him off, her voice rising with both anguish and fury. "Then maybe you don't love me the way I need to be loved." The words ripped through the night, leaving both of them breathless. Ryan staggered back as though struck. Emma pressed her hands to her face, shaking. "I didn't mean," she began, but the damage was already done. Ryan's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. He swallowed hard, his voice barely audible. "Maybe you did." The silence that followed was unbearable. The house loomed behind them, its cracked walls and sagging beams, a mirror of the fractures splitting their bond. Emma turned away, unable to look at him. Her heart screamed for him to pull her back, to prove her wrong, to fight. But his footsteps remained where they were. The sky deepened into dusk, shadows stretching across the ground. Emma's pulse hammered as she walked toward the garden gate, each step heavier than the last dot behind her. Ryan finally whispered into the fading light, "I don't know how to fix this." Emma froze but didn't turn. Her own whisper was swallowed by the wind. "Neither do I." And with that, the distance between them became more than physical. It became a silence thick enough to drown in. The slam of the garden gate lingered in Emma's ears long after Ryan disappeared into the darkening street. The sound was final, like the closing of a door that might never reopen. She stood frozen in the quiet, the cool night air biting at her cheeks, her breath hitching with every shallow inhale. The house loomed behind her, shadowed and immense, no longer a sanctuary, but a witness to everything falling apart. Her legs carried her back inside, though she wasn't sure how. Each step across the wooden floors echoed like a hollow drumbeat, her loneliness magnified by the vastness of the rooms. Once, this space had wrapped around her like an embrace. Tonight, it felt cavernous and cruel. She pressed her back against the living room wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor, knees pulled tight to her chest. Tears blurred her vision, hot and relentless. She hated crying, hated how it made her feel weak, but the dam had already burst. "I should have stopped," she whispered into the silence. "I should have held back," but deep down, she knew it wasn't her words that had pushed him away. It was his fear, his past, and maybe her own need for him to fight harder than he was ready to. The house creaked above her, the settling wood whispering like old ghosts. She closed her eyes and let herself remember the first time she'd walked these halls after her grandfather's passing, the sharp ache of grief, softened only by the idea that restoring this place might restore her too. Tonight, for the first time, she wondered if she had been wrong. The sound of the door opening startled her. She jerked her head up, hope flaring like a spark. But it wasn't Ryan. It was Claire. Her sister hesitated in the doorway, guilt flickering across her face. "Emma." Emma wiped her cheeks quickly, but her trembling hands betrayed her. "You don't have to say it. I already know." "You were right." Claire walked closer, her heels clicking softly against the floor. "I didn't want this. Not like this." Emma laughed bitterly. "Didn't you? You said he wasn't ready. You said I was blind. And maybe I was. Maybe this house is all I'll ever have." Claire crouched beside her, reaching for her hand. Emma, don't. Don't let one fight erase everything you've built together. He cares for you. I saw it, even when I didn't want to admit it. Emma's throat burned. If he cared enough, he'd still be here. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant roll of thunder. Claire gave her hand a squeeze. He's scared. That doesn't mean it's over. Emma wanted to believe her. She wanted to cling to any thread of hope. But Ryan's retreat replayed in her mind like a cruel reel. Every step away from her an accusation. When Claire finally left, urging her to rest, Emma wandered the house like a ghost. She trailed her fingers across the piano keys in the parlor, the notes faint and dissonant. She opened old drawers, pulled out her grandfather's letters, and read them under the dim glow of a lamp. Love letters, promises, devotion written in faded ink. She traced the words with her thumb, her chest aching with longing. Why couldn't you fight for me the way he fought for her? She whispered into the paper. The storm broke outside, rain lashing against the windows, the wind howling through the cracks in the foundation. The house shook, but it was nothing compared to the quake inside her. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass, watching the rain blur the world beyond. The lightning illuminated memories. Ryan's smile when he first admired the carved banisters, the warmth of his hand brushing against hers as they uncovered hidden letters, the fire in his eyes the night they kissed under the flickering lights. Each memory was a spark, but tonight they burned like flames too bright to hold. Sleep was impossible. Emma spent the night pacing, writing half-finished sentences in her journal, tearing them out, crumpling them, throwing them aside. She made tea she never drank. She sat on the stairs listening to the rain until dawn finally broke out by morning. Exhaustion weighed on her, but her heart was heavier. The house looked different in daylight, every flaw sharper, every shadow longer. It mocked her with the truth. Love could not be built on cracked foundations, no matter how desperately she tried to patch them. A knock on the door startled her. Hope surged again, reckless and uninvited. She rushed forward, heart pounding, only to find her mother on the porch. "Emma," her mother said softly, her eyes full of concern. "I heard what happened." Emma stepped aside, letting her in. "Did Claire tell you?" "She told me enough." Her mother reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Emma's damp cheek. "My sweet girl, you've always carried your heart in your hands, ready to give it away. That's beautiful, but it's dangerous too." Emma bit her lip. "I don't know if I can do this. The house, any of it. I feel like I'm breaking." Her mother's voice was tender, but steady. "Sometimes we have to break before we can rebuild. But Emma, you have to decide if Ryan is the one you want to rebuild with. Only you can know that." The words sank deep, but instead of clarity, they left her with more questions. When her mother left, Emma wandered upstairs to her grandfather's study. Dust lingered in the air, sunlight cutting through the blinds in sharp beams. She ran her hands over the desk, the worn leather chair, the stacks of old journals. She sank into the chair, inhaling the faint scent of tobacco and ink, and let the tears come again. "I thought love was supposed to make me stronger," she whispered into the silence. "But all I feel is weaker." Her gaze landed on a photo frame tucked between books. It was her grandparents, young and smiling, their arms entwined as though the world could never pry them apart. Emma clutched the frame to her chest, trembling. "Tell me how you did it," she begged the ghosts of the past. "Tell me how you held on when everything tried to tear you apart." But the only answer was silence. The hours passed slowly, each one dragging heavier than the last. She busied herself with cleaning, sorting, repairing small things around the house, but every corner she turned seemed to whisper Ryan's name. Every board she hammered, every drawer she opened reminded her of what they'd shared and what she'd lost. By nightfall, exhaustion claimed her. She curled on the couch, clutching her grandfather's letters like a lifeline. Rain had begun again, softer this time, tapping against the windows in rhythm with her heartbeat. Her last thought before sleep finally pulled her under was simple, but devastating. What if he never comes back? The rain has been falling for hours, soft and steady, like a memory she can't shake. Emma sits alone in her grandfather's study, surrounded by shelves heavy with books and dust, a kind of dust that carries years of silence. The old cedar chest rests at her feet, its brass latch slightly tarnished, as though it has been waiting just for this night, but her fingers hesitate over the lid. She almost doesn't want to open it, afraid of what she might find or worse, what she might not. But grief is a strange kind of courage. It pushes when nothing else will. The chest creaks open. Inside are neat stacks of envelopes tied with faded ribbons, each one carrying her grandfather's steady, looping handwriting. Letters written across decades, letters to his wife, to his younger self, to Emma. Letters never meant to be read. Her chest tightens as she lifts one particular envelope, its seal still unbroken. The handwriting across it reads only her name, Emma. No date, no explanation. Just her dot. Her throat goes dry. She tears the envelope open with trembling hands. My dearest Emma, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer there to say these words myself. I have watched you grow with pride, and with sorrow too, because I saw the fear that sometimes takes root in your heart. You give so much to others, but you hold yourself back from the love you deserve. Don't let the shadows of your past write your story. Don't let the ache of what might be lost keep you from holding on to what can be found. When love knocks, open the door, even if your hands shake, even if it scares you. Especially then, choose love, Emma. Always choose love. With all my heart, grandfather. The words blur through her tears. She presses the paper to her chest, as though holding it closer might bring him back, might let her hear his voice again. She whispers, broken, into the quiet room. Grandpa, I'm so afraid. The house does not answer. Only the rain. Emma wipes her eyes and rises to her feet. She can feel her heartbeat in every limb, rushing like a storm tide. For days she's lived inside silence, replaying the last argument with Ryan, the way he walked away, his face carved with hurt. She put there. Now her grandfather's words echo through her like a bell. Choose love, Emma. Always choose love. She doesn't know if Ryan will even listen, if it's too late. But the letter burns in her hand like a torch in the dark. She can't stay silent anymore. The night is drenched in rain as she runs, coat unbuttoned, shoes splashing through puddles. The city feels like it's breathing with her, each streetlight bending halos through the mist. When she reaches Ryan's apartment, her breath comes ragged, her hair damp against her cheeks. The windows glow faintly with warm light. Her stomach knots. What if he isn't there? What if he doesn't want to see her? Her grandfather's voice seems to whisper again. Even if your hands shake. Emma climbs the stairs and knocks. The door opens slowly. Ryan stands there, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion, his shirt rumpled, like sleep never found him. His expression freezes the moment he sees her, rain-soaked and trembling on his doorstep. Emma? His voice is quiet, disbelieving. She swallows. I had to see you. His jaw tightens, as if bracing for another wound. Why now? She holds out the letter, the paper damp but legible. Because I was too afraid before. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of loving you the way I wanted to. And it cost me everything. His eyes flick to the letter, then back to her. And now? Her voice cracks. Now I'm more afraid of a life without you. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The rain drums harder, spilling over the balcony railings, as though the world itself waits for his answer. Ryan exhales slowly, his shoulders slumping under invisible weight. Emma, when you walked away, it broke something. I don't know if it can be fixed. The words pierce her, but she doesn't flinch. She steps closer, water dripping from her coat onto his floor. Maybe it's not about fixing. Maybe it's about choosing. Choosing to stay. Choosing to fight for what matters. My grandfather. Her voice falters, then steadies. He left me this letter. He told me not to let fear decide my life. And for the first time, I believe him. Ryan's gaze softens, but pain still lingers in the corners. Emma, love isn't words on paper. It's trust. It's showing up when it's hardest. Her hands shake as she reaches for his. Then let me show up now. Let me try. Please. He looks at her hand hovering between them, droplets of rain clinging to her fingers like tiny stars. His silence stretches, heavy, unbearable, and then he steps back. Just one step. Emma's heart lurches. The space between them feels like a canyon. I need time, Ryan says, his voice low. Time to know if I can trust you again. Her breath shatters. She nods, though every part of her wants to beg him not to let go. I'll wait, she whispers. As long as it takes. Ryan doesn't close the door, but he doesn't reach for her either. He just stands there, eyes unreadable, a storm within them that matches the one outside. Emma backs away slowly, the letter clutched tight against her chest. The rain greets her again, cool and merciless. She doesn't know what tomorrow will bring, only that the choice has been made. She chose love. Whether it's enough, that's his choice now. The storm has passed, but the silence it leaves behind is louder than thunder. Emma moves through the house in slow steps, each room humming with ghosts. The kitchen where her grandfather hummed old songs while brewing tea. The study where his letters lived, tucked away until the night they found her. And now, the living room her refuge, where shadows of Ryan linger like fingerprints on glass. She kneels on the rug, folding the letter again and again until the creases threaten to tear. Its words still burn in her chest. Choose love, Emma. Always choose love. But love feels like a locked door, and Ryan is on the other side. Her phone lies dark on the coffee table. No message. No call. Hours bleed into night, and night into dawn, until the rhythm of waiting becomes unbearable. She tells herself she won't pace, won't keep looking out the window for headlights that never arrive. Still, she does. The house feels too big, its silence too cruel. She speaks aloud, as though her grandfather might hear. You left me this house to keep me grounded, but it feels like an anchor now, pulling me under. Her voice cracks. She clutches the letter against her heart and lets herself crumble onto the couch, the old cushions embracing her tears. By evening, she's exhausted. The fire in the hearth has burned low, the room cloaked in amber shadows. Her eyes are heavy when a sound jolts her upright footsteps on the porch. Her breath catches. The knock is soft, almost hesitant. Emma stares at the door, afraid to move. Afraid it isn't him. Afraid it is. She opens it. Ryan stands there, damp from misty night air, hair tousled, hands shoved deep into his coat pockets, as though they're holding him together. His eyes meet hers, raw and uncertain. Her throat tightens. Ryan. For a moment, neither speaks. The silence between them is fragile, like glass about to shatter. Finally, he exhales, his voice low. I tried to leave. Drove halfway across the city. But the farther I went, the worse it felt. Like I was walking away from something that was supposed to be mine. Emma grips the doorframe, steadying herself. Then why did you keep going? Because I was angry. Because I was scared. Because loving you hurts, Emma. It terrifies me. His voice breaks, the confession hanging heavy in the night, that her tears rise unbidden. You think it doesn't terrify me? I've been running from it too. But my grandfather, he reminded me that fear isn't supposed to win. Love is. Ryan steps closer, his gaze searching hers. Then why does it feel like we're always breaking instead of building? She swallows hard, lifting the letter between them. Because we keep choosing fear. I don't want to anymore. I want to choose us. Even if it means we crack, we fix it. Even if the walls fall, we rebuild. The words shake, but they're steady enough. Ryan's eyes flick to the house behind her. This place? It should feel like just wood and brick. But when I walked away, all I could think about was here. The sound of your laugh in the hallway. The way you fall asleep on the couch and leave the light on. The smell of your grandfather's books. He takes her hand, tentative, trembling. This isn't just a house anymore. It's home. Because you're in it. Emma's breath hitches. His hand is warm, grounding her. She looks up at him, eyes brimming with both love and fear. Then stay. Don't keep running. Don't make this another place I lose. The porch light flickers above them, the only witness to the moment. Ryan pulls her into his arms, holding her like he's afraid she might vanish. His voice muffles against her hair. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. Emma buries her face in his chest, the rhythm of his heartbeat syncing with her own. Then don't, just stay. Inside, the house feels different, warmer, as if it has been waiting for this reconciliation all along. Ryan sheds his coat, draping it over the armchair, his movements hesitant but soft. Emma curls onto the couch, watching him with the kind of fragile hope that aches. He sits beside her, their shoulders brushing, silence thick but no longer suffocating. I used to think love was about finding perfection, Ryan admits, staring into the flickering fire. But it's not. It's about choosing to stay when everything feels imperfect. It's about seeing the cracks and staying anyway. Emma leans into him, her hand finding his. That's what my grandfather did. He wrote letters he never meant to send, but he stayed every day for the people he loved. I think that's why he left me this house, not to keep me trapped in the past, but to remind me that love lasts where you build it. Ryan turns to her, his eyes shining in the dim light. Then let's build it. Here, with you. Her lips part, a soft gasp escaping. She feels the truth of it echo inside her, louder than the storm outside, stronger than the fear that once silenced her. She whispers, barely audible, stay? Ryan leans closer, their foreheads almost touching, his breath mingling with hers. I'm not going anywhere. Their lips meet, tender at first, then deepening into something fierce and unyielding. It's a kiss that carries every apology, every promise, every broken piece stitched back together. The house seems to exhale, floorboards settling, fire crackling brighter. When they part, Emma's tears shine like glass, but her smile is steady. Home isn't walls. It's not even memories. It's this. You and me. Ryan presses his forehead to hers, a quiet laugh escaping. Then I guess I finally found where I belong.